Southampton stretched their unbeaten run to 19 matches, thrashing League Two Walsall in the FA Cup third round. Alfie, I'm going to start with you this week. I mean, that was as routine as a win can be, but what did you make of the game?
I think I probably agreed with Russell's assessment at the end. I didn't think the first half was amazing. They had a couple of chances. I think, to be fair, if they had some shooting boots on, they would have been 4 or 5 ahead at half time. I think Sekou Mara had a couple that he should have put away, one with a header and then with an open goal, which was a tough open goal as they come, but it's still an open goal. I think Will Smallbone a couple of times picked up in the area by balls in from Magoma and Fraser on the left as well. But look, we got Ryan Fraser masterclass, really, didn't we? I think I spoke to Ryan on Friday and just had the feeling that he was going to do something special, and his finishing's ridiculous. I said to Glen and Steve about an hour ago watching the Arsenal game that if Ryan Fraser was playing for Arsenal, we've had a hat-trick, and I really feel like he would have done because he seems to take everything that comes his way. The second half was massively improved. Only after a small blip in the sort of first 5 minutes, Mason Holgate and Jack Stevens, I felt they both sort of handed an equaliser on a plate, really, but got away with it. And I think the game showed that Joe Lumley has a genuinely decent goalkeeper, actually. I didn't know much about Joe Lumley, but his footwork is really good. He knows Dean Thornton really well from QPR, and that's sort of why they brought him in. And I think the final thing that I learned, which isn't new information, is that if I had to choose a player to ping a ball 50 yards to save my life, it would be Taylor Bellis because he does it perfectly every single time. So yeah, overall 4-0 win, happy days into the fourth round, and the draws obviously tomorrow night or tonight when you're listening.
Yeah, those that chip over the top was something else. Steve, Chris Sutton thought we'd slip up in his predictions, but you were confident of a win. I think we all were.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Sutton being contrarian, trying to be make a contrarian point is probably not particularly newsworthy. But I mean, in fairness, it was a potential banana skin. Walsall have been scoring goals for fun albeit against bang average or crap League Two defences. So it's different levels, isn't it? And if at the end of the day, if we'd started sluggishly, especially having made 9 changes, if we start sluggishly and they get on the front foot early, then all of a sudden we're potentially in a bit of trouble. But actually, there's been very few shocks this weekend, hasn't there? Which, I mean, I don't know how much of that kind of just reflects on kind of the standing of the cup these days, that even teams in lower divisions aren't necessarily putting their all into it, apart from in games where they feel they've got a chance of squeezing through and getting some more money out of the competition, which is a shame, really. But I mean, the TV companies have driven a lot of this with their absolute ridiculous picks for the televised games, solely going on weight of viewers as opposed to anybody actually wanting to watch the game for the kind of narrative angle.
I think this week's are as bad as they've ever been. They're awful. All the games have been horrendous. So well done.
You kind of feel they got the results that they deserved, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Those games,
I mean, the only kind of I actually think that I mean, for once they've actually picked a Man United game that should be interesting away at Wigan for the Monday night game, because that's a proper potential banana skin, and that would be very, very funny if they managed to lose that. But yeah, all the others were just like, why are we watching this? And
Man City at home to Huddersfield. I mean, what?
Yeah, it was just dull, as we all knew it would be.
Yeah. So yeah, disappointing set of games. There were plenty of other ties in the competition that would have been more interesting, and not just saying that from the end results. So Maidstone against Stevenage was one that ended up being the only upset, really. And yeah, there's a few others that you probably could have picked. Peterborough Leeds would have been an interesting one, even though Leeds won it comfortably in the end. You could go on through. There were probably 3 or 4 that you could have easily replaced. I mean, Spurs Burnley, who apart from Spurs and Burnley fans cares about that game? Just dreadful. And I mean, I'm not suggesting that ours should have been picked, because us at home against a side 50 odd places below us in the league table, that shouldn't really be an event. And as it turned out, second half we got the job done and proved that it wasn't. So
it was entertaining though, Steve, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we had, as Alfie said, we had that 10-minute spell either side of half time where we seemed determined to give Walsall something to sort of claw onto. But then, having woken ourselves up from those little moments, We then kind of hammered things home and actually probably could have won by 5 or 6 in the end. But yeah, I mean, you can't complain with a 4-0 win. Simple passage through to the next round. Don't think anybody's picked up any injuries as a result of the game. So everyone's a winner, really.
Yeah, and a few players impressing as well. Glenn, I mean, Russell Martin had promised to field a strong side. We always take his comments pre-game with a pinch of salt because we never quite know what he's going to pull out of his sleeve. But were you expecting 9 changes?
Yeah, I was more or less. To be honest, I was surprised Taylor Howard-Bellis was playing. I thought they'd find some way to put Shea Charles at centre back and play someone else in midfield, sort of thing. So, but the lineup didn't surprise me, and the performance overall was good. And to be honest, we should be able to put a team out like that against a mid-table League Two side. As Steve said, we kind of gave them chances, but they had nothing up front whatsoever. So you've got to caveat the performances of the likes of Jaden Magoma. So whilst he looked great going forward, he was completely untested defensively. So there's still a question mark there. I totally agree with Alfie on Joe Lumley. I thought he was excellent. Just did everything he had to do, and obviously in a goalkeeper's case, if they don't get any shot or hardly get any shots at you, then there's nothing you can do about it. But he did everything that he needed to do. But I didn't know much about him either. But if you look at it, he's played 200 league games.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's one of these goalkeepers who's always been second choice. I mean, for context, McCarthy's only played 275, and he's 5 years older. So I mean, similar to Ryan Fraser, and this is what I've been banging on about all season. When you come in and you get given your chance, you've got to prove that you can be trusted. And I think after that, Russell Martin would be a lot happier about putting Joe Lumley in the league side if he had to, because he demonstrated, he managed to demonstrate that he could sort of like play with his feet, and certainly better than Mr. Leadleg, so we're paying 60 grand a week to or whatever. So
but now, because I mean, that's interesting that Alex McCarthy's not been on the bench recently, and people were saying, well, is he still around? Is he just fallen out of favour or whatever? We know that his contract is up in the summer, and that presumably he'll be gone, if not,
yeah,
in the next couple of weeks, as soon as possible. But
we're paying him 60 grand a week to take corners in the warm up.
But as a fan, when you see someone like Joe Lumley come into the team and play well, and the manager talk really highly of them afterwards, it kind of gives you that confidence that actually, do you know what, we have got a half decent backup keeper and someone that could challenge Baz, and we've not had that for a while.
I spoke to Joe Lumley after the game yesterday. Sorry to cut you off, Glenn.
That's
basically,
right.
He played 41 games for Reading last season in the Championship. So I asked him, why did you join a club when you know realistically you're not going to be playing? And he just simply said, well, Southampton's a massive club and I want to be a Premier League goalkeeper, and this is the best way of that happening. So I think he's quite happy to sort of be this backup bit part guy, kind of like Ryan Fraser was coming in. And I think he's another good character, and quite clearly he is a better player in Russell Martin's system than Alex McCarthy is, regardless of his shot stopping, which obviously we haven't really seen tested yet.
And it sounds like he's still got that ambition then. He's an ambitious player coming in. He's not just coming in to take the money and sit on the bench. He's saying all the right things. So it was just another positive that came out yesterday, Glenn, and there were plenty of them, it seemed to me.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, the ones that we've questioned in the past, Sekou Mara took his goal really well. I thought he was trying a little bit too hard in the first half. It just seemed to be a panic every time the ball came near him. He tried to do something that wasn't working. That ultimately didn't work, and either lost the ball or just whatever he tried didn't work. It was nice to see Sam Ammo given a game from the start, though most of the play came down the left because obviously Fraser was on fire, literally. So the right hand side didn't really see much of the ball, and that kind of limited Tyler Diblin a little bit when he came on as well, because everything was still sort of going down the left hand side, so he didn't get many touches. Cam Bragg in midfield, coming in and playing the number 6 in our system when you're 4-0 up is great for a youngster, because he must have touched the ball about 15 times and probably 100% pass completion, just knocking it around. And Walsall were on the bus on the way home by then, so it was a nice debut for him. Charlie Alcaraz, someone we talked about, someone's got to put their hands up to take Joe Aribo's place over the next few games. I thought Alcaraz played well second half. First half, I think he was trying to take liberties a bit. He was trying to nutmeg people and do all sorts of silly turns and stuff like that, and ultimately ended up losing the ball. And you could visibly see Russell Martin getting visibly frustrated with him coughing up possession. He obviously had a word with him at half time, because second half he was
just trying a bit too hard in the first half. Do you think is that he's trying too hard to create an impression?
I think Sekumara was trying a little bit too hard. I think Charlie Alcaraz was. These are rubbish. I'm going to take some liberties here and try and prove that I train with Argentina's first team, for God's sake. That's what it looked like to me. But no, he sorted himself out second half, and thought he played well. But no one did themselves any harm. That's for sure. And it was a decent performance all round, and it proved that people can slot into the system, and there were some good patterns of play as well. I mean, the chip ball over the top is something that we've seen a little bit more. The centre backs chipping. Che Adams' goal against Plymouth was scored that way. Ryan Fraser's first goal was scored that way yesterday. And breaking quickly. I mean, we look at Sekumara's goal; it comes from the goalkeeper to the back of the net in about sort of 10 seconds. There's no stopping in midfield and passing it about and letting everyone get back. So we do seem to be adding, sort of ironing out some of the things that weren't so great earlier on in the season. So good day all round.
Steve, I mean, that was essentially a second string team that put in a decent performance. That wasn't the case back at the start of the season. I'm thinking about that Carabao Cup game in August. What's changed? What's different? Is it just the makeup of the squad at the moment, or is that players that didn't want to be there? Do you think they're better with the system now? Because it's a
I think a little bit of all of that. Ultimately, there's some players that played in that game at Gillingham that aren't here anymore. You've got, I mean, at that point we basically had a squad which the vast majority were used to losing every week. So the mentality was very different. We're now 19 games unbeaten in all competitions. We haven't lost a game since the end of September. This is a group of players that is used to winning games of football now, and as a result, you can slot people in a lot easier. I think the system is now much better drilled. So all of the players know the system. They know what the roles and responsibilities are in various areas of the pitch. So I think you can chop and change a little bit more freely now. Whereas at the start of the season, I think there were probably a handful of players that grasped the system very quickly and were very comfortable with it. Others weren't so much and needed a little bit more hand holding and a little bit of rotation in and out of the team to kind of get used to everything. And also the way that we've kind of migrated from what we were doing at the start of the season, which was 1,000 passes a game and not really necessarily going anywhere, to now being been a little bit more pragmatic, but also just being more kind of clinical and picking our moments. And I think that's when the players kind of have that sort of vision of how they're going to slot in and how the team is expected to deal with certain circumstances. I think that just gives players the comfort that they can slot into the team, and they're going to feel comfortable, and the environment around them is kind of geared up to helping them do what they need to do. Whereas I think in previous, certainly that Gillingham game, that game was basically set up for everyone to fail. Really, it was right. Which one of you lot want to actually be here and which don't? And I think
a few of them did, didn't they?
Yeah, we got a very firm answer from some of those. So yeah, look, that game's out of memory now. It's way in the past, and yeah, I think the contrast between the two games, two basically mid-table League Two opponents, one where we've been completely just outgunned from set pieces, really, and just outfought across the pitch, to a game, 4 or 5 months later, where we've been very comfortable and and kind of kept them at arm's length pretty much throughout, really.
Final word on the youngsters, Alfie. Obviously, there were a few getting some minutes yesterday. Any that really stood out for you? Any that you think might have done themselves a favour and put their name in the hat for a start or at least a place on the bench in the league?
Yeah, I don't know if any of them have put their name in the hat for a start, if I'm being completely honest, but I don't think they're expected to at this point. They're obviously, 3 of them are 17 years old. Cam's a little bit older, he's 19, just turned 19. And I thought Cam actually, as Glen said, he looked really, really assured in that midfield role, but it was obviously quite a comfortable one to come into. The under-21s are back in action again on Friday. They're playing Spurs in the Premier League, so I'm looking forward to going to that one at Snow Stadium. But yeah, echo all the things they've already said, really. Jayden was really good going forward. Couple of balls into the box. Smallbone could have finished one. He could have had an assist, but I'm not really tested. I felt that Ammo, luckily we've already seen what Sam Ammo can do, so no one sat there going, "Oh, this kid's not ready." But I felt that he'd have been disappointed he didn't really carve a real chance out for himself. I think he probably would have felt that was an opportunity to score a goal. And I would have liked to see Tyler. I mean, Tyler's preferred position is really playing as the 8 or the 10. He was out on the right, so again, I thought it was slightly different for him as well. But I think it was more about just giving them that experience inside St Mary's. Andy Goldie, academy director, was there. Dave Horseman, their old coach, was there as well. Obviously, just been let go from Forest Green quite recently, so good to see him come along and watch the lads. But yeah, just another good day for the academy, really. I mean, we ticked off a debut for Cam Bragg. I think we'll see more of him because Russell Martin really likes him. He said to me a couple of times about the way that he comes into first team sessions and then he'll go back out into the 21s and start coaching his teammates. Everything that he's learned, he starts passing on. And that's exactly what you want from the young players. So yeah, really exciting times. But I don't think anybody did anything outrageously special. It wasn't like they came on and created 10, 15 chances or anything like that. But a good run out.
There is that bit of a buzz around, though, with the youngsters at the moment, Glenn. I know we'll get on to the transfer window, and a few of them have signed professional contracts, but it's good to see them getting the chances and doing themselves proud.
Yeah, I mean that's what the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup are kind of good for. It's to slot people into a team, into a system. It's a lot easier to be slotted into a system that everybody knows and all the senior players are comfortable in it. It's much easier to slot a youngster in when it's like that, rather than we've had in the past. Maybe last season, for example, you couldn't have slotted a youngster into that because it was a complete shambles. They'd have just drowned. It would have been horrible. So yeah. I mean, I'm interested in the fact that most of the lads that we've got who are anywhere near making a debut or playing league games for the first team are 17. I do wonder what happens to the Cam Bragg's 19, as it turns out. We seem to I don't know if this is a thing for every club, but we seem to hang on to players till they're 23 or whatever, and they're never ever going to make it. I saw the other day Jake Vokins is still at the club. Guy's about 25. So there does seem to be a little bit of a disconnect there where we've got an under 23 team. You assume we've got some players who are like 23, 22 that are nowhere near the first team. But no, if the 17-year-olds can do it, then what's it? If you're good enough, you're old enough. So, but yeah, I just think it's a good thing. They all took their chance, and none of them would have gone down in Russell Martin's estimation. That's a good thing.
That's good. Well, Saints will be ball number 10 in the fourth round draw, which is going to be on ITV. If you're listening on Monday morning, it's going to be on Monday evening. I think it takes place just before Wigan versus Manchester United. So if you're listening Tuesday or onwards, then you'll know who we have. But Monday night for the fourth round draw for the FA Cup.
Who do we want?
Pompey. Oh no,
they're out.
No, what shame.
Eastleigh.
Eastleigh, the dream. Oh, what do you mean no to Eastleigh? That'd be the best one, surely.
No,
you don't think they're going to win the replay?
Man United for me. Man United at home.
At home.
What mid-table Premier League opposition?
Yeah,
so we can test our level.
Absolutely.
And it'd be on the telly.
Yeah. Well, yeah.